Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new live stream. I'm going to do something interesting today that I don't think I've ever done before. And I mean, I've done a lot of teardowns, but I've never done a keyword list only teardown. So this is going to be fun, but welcome. I haven't seen you in, what, a week? I mean, I don't really see you. I see a camera, but still. So let's start with tradition. What's in your cup and where are you from? I'm drinking simple Earl Grey tea. I'm back to normal and I'm here in New York and it's getting nice and warm here. If you're in New York, hello. If you are not, come visit us. So tell me in the chat what's in your cup and where you're from. We'll wait for people to shuffle in and then we're going to start talking about what I think is the most neglected part of your metadata that can really ruin your downloads. And I see this every day, every single day. So we'll get started and you'll see. And we're doing something interesting today where I ask people to submit their app and also submit their keyword list, something I've never asked before. So in the past, I guessed about keyword lists, and today we're going to look at the real keyword lists and find issues with them. I have tools to show you. I have processes to show you. I have tricks to show you. I have things that I learned in a really strange way to show you. So we're going to do all of those. And let's see, what do we have so far? What do we have so far? We have, Barcelona, Orlando, Florida. Nice. It's probably sunny there, I hope. Green tea in Poland. That's nice. Water in Greece. We're again super international. I love this. I love this so much. Eventually, I'll learn all the languages, and then I can just chat in all the languages. Maybe eventually is in a million years. We'll see. We got some black coffee in Canada. Hello from Iraq. Wow. Okay, that's really cool. So all over the place. Georgia, Athens in Georgia, and we also have Greece in the house. Talk about cool. So what I'm going to do today is, one, I'm going to drink my tea, but two, I'm going to go over a guide that I wrote a whole bunch of years ago, but only recently updated with brand new information that kind of negates what I said back in 2021 about the keyword list, and it's really important. So if you're here, you should pay attention to this. We'll go through those. Those are what I call tips or mistakes or just things you have to know. It's some technical stuff that's really, really simple. I'll show you a tool I use to do all the things that are mistakes to correct them, and then we're going to look at actual apps and actual keyword lists and see what sort of things are happening in there. So we'll start at the beginning. Drink some tea. Oh, it's really hot. Okay, we'll put it here and then we'll continue. So let me bring my screen on. I have a treat for you today. People have asked me to make sure my face stays in the screen as you see my computer. So I did that. Hello, I'm still here. So this is a guide that I wrote a long time ago, maybe one of my first guides that I ever put out there. And in there, what I saw was everyone was making kind of the same mistake, same set of mistakes when it comes to the keyword list. So the keyword list is the not most important thing that I would say, but it's the second and a half most important thing that you have in your metadata, which means you have the name, you have your subtitle, and then you have your keyword list. And this is specifically for App Store Connect. So Google Play will have a separate live stream where we'll analyze the long description in the context of the name and the short description. This is specifically for the App Store. So you have these three things. And the problem with the three things is they don't really give you that many characters, and Apple gives you 0 directions, especially for the keyword list. You have to have a name for your app. That kind of makes sense. You have to have a subtitle. That kind of makes sense. But then as you submit your app, especially if it's for the first time, you go and you see that you need to put in a keyword list. And you're like, I don't know what to do with this. What are keywords? And that's where mistakes happen. So I went through many keyword lists. I went through all the documentation Apple has to offer, and I analyzed everything and put it all into this guide. So we're going to go through this really quickly. If you have any questions, like where my mouse is, I did not lose my mouse today yet. There's still time. We just got started. But if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. I'm looking at the chat, which is over here and over here simultaneously for me. And we'll go from there and we'll get to, I have 8 apps that I selected at random from, I think 70 apps that were submitted. and we'll see if they did a good job, and if not, well, we can do better. So there are a lot of words, and we'll put a link to this guide in the description later in case you want to read it, but I'm going to give you the very short version, the version that is going to be most applicable to this. If you have never done a keyword list, this may seem a little bit too advanced. That's okay. You will see what I mean in just a little bit. If you have done even one, you'll know what I'm talking about. So one of the biggest problems, and the first one that I highlighted here, let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. Yes, I can zoom in. Almost full screen. We almost had it. So I took in this guide a sample list, and I went through it. And this is my sample list. And I don't know if you can spot the mistakes yet, but we're going to go through them. So quickly, our first mistake is not using single words. So in the case of this keyword list, you see here we have a shopping app. The algorithm, the way it works is it looks at every individual word and it splits them, which means it doesn't know that you put in shopping app. It sees shopping and app. And so repeating that and having that in multiple places means that you have repetition, which is the second mistake that we have, but the space is not going to do anything. The algorithm is not going to see this as a single keyword. So don't do that. It's just wasting your space. The second is remove all the spaces. The algorithm doesn't really use the space for anything meaningful, and you're limited on characters here. So you really don't want to use them. Don't pluralize words. I learned this after trial and error. You don't have to pluralize words because the algorithm will do that for you. Now, there's a tiny caveat here, and that is if you need to compete on the plural of the word and it's extremely competitive, then you may want to do it. But if you want to do that, you shouldn't use it in the keyword list because, and we'll get to that in just a little bit, the keyword list is not where you want to put your most important keywords. It's where you want to put your second and a half most important keywords. Eliminating stop words, so words like on and the and app. Apple explicitly says app is a word that they ignore. I've seen many people make this mistake, and it kind of seemed like in some cases it works, but it doesn't. So eliminate that. I have a list of stop words at the bottom of this guide in case you're not sure what it is. And if you need it, and I have it in English, but if you need it in different languages, you can use your favorite LLM, whether it's ChatGPT or Grok or Claude or any of those or DeepSeek, and get a list of stop words fairly easily. I should probably add it to this. Don't include your app name, your company name, or your category name because those are already being indexed from your app name, your category name, and also your company name. There are, again, just like what I said before, there are some cases where if a keyword is super competitive, and I don't really know how that would happen when it's your app's name, and you might, but those are very narrow cases, and you shouldn't really go off of those. Simplify complicated words. I know that some developers like to think in big words, but usual users don't. So make sure you don't do that. Use very simple words. And number 7, this is the most important one, especially if you've seen this guide or have seen similar guides before. You don't want to use all 100 characters. And you might think, wait, are you crazy? No, I'm not crazy at all. I used to say use all 100 characters, and if you read this guide up until fairly recently, it actually said use all 100 characters. But as you optimize the keyword list, the most important thing, and this is by necessity also applicable for your name and your subtitle, you want to make sure you're focused. And we'll talk about focus, and we'll see it in some of the apps that we analyzed today. But if your keyword list is all over the place because you just try to cram as many unrelated keywords, it's only going to hurt your chances of ranking. So really, you don't want to do that. What you do want to do is you can use all 100 characters as long as the keywords are similar. That's really the key. So if you don't lose focus, perfect. And if you have a way to utilize all 100 characters without losing focus, you win. But if the focus starts shifting away from your main keywords, you don't want to do that. That's only going to hurt you. And then the last item on the list is something that I added later on after some discovery, and that is the sequence of your keywords is incredibly important. What's on the left in English is going to get more love from the algorithm, and what's on the right is going to get less love. especially if you're using all 100 characters. This becomes really important. If you're not, still important. And I've seen ranks change based on the sequence itself. So you do want to pay attention to this. Now, I went through this really, really quickly, mostly because I just want to get the idea that there is some technical aspect to this into everyone's heads. We will leave a link to this in the description later, so you can go and you can read it and you can see all the details. But that's what the technical aspect of keyword list optimization is. I'm starting to see questions in the chat about what to put in the keyword list. And that's really what we're going to be focusing on today, now that you know how to organize it. And we'll see in just a few minutes how I organize it even faster, because you can go through and you can apply these and it wouldn't take that long, but you can still make mistakes. I've seen mistakes in some of the keyword lists that seem optimized, but we have a tool and it's totally free where you can just drop in your keyword list and it will optimize for you and also show you the keyword combinations that it's generating, and you can see if you're targeting good keywords. So I'll show you that in just a minute. But let's take some keywords. Let's take some questions from the chat before we get started. So let's go with this. John is asking what to put in the keyword list if I already have all the relevant keywords in the title, subtitle, in different locales that are indexed in the US. So that's an interesting question. The idea behind the localization trick tip, or how I do it, is I actually use it for different focuses. So what I would do is I would pick one focus and use the name, subtitle, and keyword list in one localization for one focus. I would do the same for a different focus on a different set of keywords, very narrow set of keywords. So let's take, for example, working out or exercise or fitness. Fitness can be one set of keywords, and fitness can work with a bunch of different long tail keywords. For example, fitness at home, fitness machine, fitness routine. Not all of those are going to fit in the name and the subtitle. Those are what I would put in the keyword list, and that's because the keyword list, the name, and the subtitle are merged together by the algorithm to form one set of keywords. It's just that the keywords in the keyword list get less, and the keywords in the name and the subtitle, or the name, get more, subtitle less, and keyword list less. So ultimately, what you want to do is you want to put those stems of keywords, so fitness, for example, in the name, and then everything else should go into the keyword list. But again, based on what I said before, or back to what I said before, you don't want to lose focus. So you want to make sure that you're not showing the algorithm too many things that have to do with fitness, just the things that are important. Now, if you're using, if you're not using any tool to figure out how worthy the keywords are, you might make a mistake and end up putting an important keyword in the keyword list and not the subtitle or the name, where ideally they would go. So make sure you look at keyword popularity. That's the most important thing in deciding where to put those keywords. Also make sure that you are competitive for the keywords, but that's a little bit different. So if you follow that logic, use that same sort of idea, but just copy and paste it across the different localizations if they're similar, or clean them up and have them ready for that localization based on what the focus is. That's how I would do it. Leonardo is asking, I've noticed that non-English languages consider irregular plurals as different words. What's your approach to identify these cases? It's a little bit more challenging for sure. I think the algorithm is very calibrated for English. It's less calibrated for other languages. And so in English, you have a little bit more flexibility, like not including plurals, where in other languages, you may not have this luxury at all. So in other languages, I would address what's actually being searched. So if the keyword is a plural that has a higher popularity, use that in your keyword list or in your name or in your subtitle. And if it isn't, use the non-pluralized version just as people are searching, because you're not going to get that additional benefit and you're not going to get that additional saving. That becomes really complicated as you go out east, and the languages are a little bit different. So aim for what people are searching in languages that are not English. Optimize in English specifically. Amor is asking, what about keywords like free to do app? Should we remove the word app too? So there are a few problems here. Free is a keyword that Apple really doesn't like. I think in some cases you'd even get a metadata rejection for this. Not always, but sometimes. So that's already problem number one. app is very problematic. I think that if you look at the competition and see what they're putting in their app, if a lot of them are targeting app, then you should probably give it a try. I would not put it in my keyword list though, because that's really hiding it. If it's so important that it has to be in the name, even though it's a stop word, bring it all the way up into the name and not anywhere else. That's how I would do it. Nathan agrees with me. Okay. Question from Umberto. Can you use not similar words across regions? Yes, that's kind of the whole idea. So each localization is kind of its own island. The name, the subtitle, the keyword list are going to get merged within the localization, not across localizations. So you don't need to worry about what you're putting in each localization, but you need to worry about what you're really constructing in each localization. Hopefully that makes sense. Gabriel is asking, if I share my keyword list, can you optimize it in real time? If we have time at the end, there are so many submissions that I don't think I can take them live, but we're going to do this live, so you will see how it works. And I'll take one last question, and then we'll jump right into it, because I didn't realize what time it was. Does the order of the title and subtitle matter too? Absolutely. 100%. So the algorithm in English reads from left to right. In right to left languages, it reads from right to left. You want to make sure that the most important keyword or the most important part of the keyword is always at the beginning based on the language that you're optimizing for. The same goes for the subtitle, the same goes for the keyword list, same goes for the name. They're all running in that order, and they're all being sorted and then smushed together. So that's what you want to do. Hopefully this was a good starting point for us. So I'm going to go back to my computer, and we're going to go to, where are we going to go? I did not lose my mouse, just for the record. We're going to go into the first app that is on my list. Surf tracking, gun surfing. It's a cool way of using surf and surfing all together. We have waves and fitness tracker. So there's already a lot going on. And going back to what I said about focus, it's possible that if you use too many words, and in this case, I don't know if that's too many words. We'll have to see in Keyword Inspector if that's the case. You're already maximizing what the algorithm can look at and assign to you. So you want to focus on really the most important stuff. So if surf is more important than surfing, for example, I would focus on that more than having both, and use surfing as a separate focus in a separate localization, because surf tracking can be really important. Surfing tracking is unlikely important. Let's take a look really quickly, because I don't know enough about surf tracking. So I am now in Keyword Inspector, my favorite tool, and we're going to go and type in surf tracking, and we're going to look for that in real time. And surf tracking is not very popular, which partially surprises me, but not really. So I say that because the popularity here is 5, and 5 is the lowest that you can. It means that really no one cares. And so that's already important. Now, it's important because, and we haven't even gotten to the keyword list, but I'm here and I might as well point it out. That's what the algorithm sees. So going back to that last question that I had about the order of the keywords, the algorithm sees this app by Darian as surf tracking. Surf tracking is a popularity of 5. Even if you're number 1 in a popularity 5, it's not really going to take you all that far. So realistically, this is already something that can be optimized, and using that you can get to a higher position. But let's see what else we see on here, just to get an idea for what we're optimizing for. There's waves and fitness tracker. Let's see if anyone is looking for waves tracker. Waves tracker. And this is happening in real time, and it's getting the latest results. Let's see what's happening here. I mean, we got some results. So, oh, interesting. Habit tracker is a number 3. So that means this keyword it's also a 5, and it's even less competitive. So already another problem. Now, waves tracking? No, I don't think that would work. Now, this is where things are getting really, really complicated. So obviously surf and waves and things that have to do with surfing are not that popular on the App Store. But now we're throwing in this little wrench called fitness. So now we said fitness tracker. Now, fitness is a much more popular and much more competitive category. So even if we wanted to rank #1 for surf tracking, and there is a reason why we would want to do that, throwing in fitness tracker ruins everything. It confuses the algorithm and puts it in a space where now it doesn't know if we need to be the leaders in these 5 popularity keywords or we need to really not exist in fitness. You can't have it all, not in one localization. So this is something I would remove. And now with that in mind, let's go and let me grab the keyword list for this app that was submitted. I'll find it here. I didn't really have a good way to bring it up on the screen, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to the tool we have, and I'm going to throw it in. This is not the right tool. What is happening here? This is the right tool. I forgot to update the second link. Okay, so you can find this link. You can find this tool in your menu in Appfigures, and this is available to everyone, regardless of your plan. We wanted to make this simple. So this is what surf tracking, right? The surf tracking app submitted. So we have Tide, we have Insight, we have Surf Fitness. So you can already see problem #1. We have surf training. So surf is being repeated here so much. And if you know me, and if you have listened to anything I've said before, you know the cardinal sin of ASO is repetition. Repetition ruins everything. I can't stress this enough. So what we're doing here is really, we have surf tracking in the name. So we told the algorithm surf tracking is the most important thing in this app. Whether that's popular or not, we'll leave aside for now. The algorithm's like, okay, I'm going to give this app the highest rank I can for surf tracking. And there's no repetition here, and it's fine. And there's no repetition here, so it's fine. But then we go into the keyword list and we see surf in here, and the algorithm is very confused because the keyword list is much less important than the name. It works with the name. It helps the name, but it doesn't really give you that 100% maximum view opportunity. And when you repeat stuff, if you remember, the last instance of the word is the thing that the algorithm sees. So now it only sees surf on here. You're not seeing my computer. Now we're back to my computer. Now we don't have surf. So we have surf here that gets negated. So the first word in the name, the most important, the strongest in theory, gets negated because it's in the keyword list, and it's in the keyword list so many times that it's being really relegated all the way to the end, which is here. If I can zoom this in. So it's getting relegated all the way to the end. This is a problem, and this is probably the most terrible thing you can do for your app. And I don't mean to be mean here. This is something that's easily fixable, and that's really the key. The key is all you have to do is you have to fix this, and you will rank for surf tracking. 1, because it's a 5 popularity, and that's really low, but that's a different problem. But 2, because it's right in the beginning of your name. So unless there's extreme competition over surf tracking, and there are apps that are getting many, many more keywords, you are very likely to get to a top position, even without enough ratings. I really didn't look at how many ratings, but let's look at it again. Surf tracking. Oops, not surf. Need to have fun in the morning. Surf tracking, so it's a popularity of 5, but you see it's kind of a nice keyword because this app does not have surf tracking in its name. This app does not have surf tracking in its name. It does in its keyword, in its subtitle, but because you have it in the name, you're going to win, and you're here. So all you have to do is really remove that repetition from the keyword list, and I believe you can go even as up high as #2. Let's look at the ratings. Maybe not as high as 2 because you don't really have many or any new ratings, but any new rating that will go into this will really help you get up higher. So if this is something that you're optimizing for, and this is kind of a good segue or a good point to bring up, not all apps are going to have keywords that are really popular. And that's okay. That's understandable. I think that comes up in every live stream that I do. There are some situations where the demand is just not there to a point where it can compete with Instagram or compete with TikTok. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that no one is looking for this. People could still be looking for this. And we saw by some of the other apps, they are making money. I don't know if they're exactly the same. So for example, Surfline, I don't know what the difference is, but in case there isn't a difference, they're making money. So I think it's fine to say, even though there isn't a lot of popularity on this keyword, you might still want to rank for it. And the idea behind ranking for keywords that are not popular is instead of just optimizing for one, you have to optimize for many, but not necessarily many where you lose focus, if that makes sense. Many where you're still focused. You're focusing on surf tracking, but you have to find all the different variations of surf tracking, and that's what you have to optimize for. So fitness should not be in this. Waves, maybe we'd have to go in deeper and see if this is something that is recurring within all the other competing apps. But for the most part, what I would do is focus as much as I can on surf tracking. So here's what I would do. I would go in here and let me zoom out a tiny bit. And let's optimize this, and boom, this has been optimized. So the repetition is gone. The spaces are, oh, I forgot my screen again. Maybe forgetting my screen is the new I don't know where my mouse is. We'll see. We still have time. So I hit the optimize button, and this keyword list became this keyword list that is considerably shorter. We saved 17 characters, which is almost 20% on 100. And we removed the duplication, which is really the most problematic thing, and also remove the spaces and make sure that you have more space should you want to use it. Now, it doesn't take away the surf because we're not here explicitly looking at the app name and subtitle. That's something we will do in the future, and we will apply even those optimizations automatically. For now, you still have to use your own knowledge, but what I would do here is I would throw away everything that you can't really marry with surf. And that's if surf is the most important thing. So verify that's the most important thing, then go after it. So surf and tide doesn't really work together. Surf and insight, that could work together. Surf insights, maybe. Surf should go away. Fitness should definitely go away. Surf training, not sure if that's a real thing, but if it is, keep it. Surf analytics, maybe. RIP, I would maybe move to tide and move those into a different localization to target that as a separate focus. I know surf could align with those, but I think it's a little bit too all over the place. That's definitely something I would test. We have curl. I'm not sure how that's related. GP, this is a tiny tip that I know. 2 character words Apple will most likely ignore. I know it's rough, and I know in some cases you have to use them, but there's not much you can do. I don't know what GP is in this particular case, but unless it's extremely important, I would remove it. And if it is extremely important, move it up into the subtitle. I think there's no middle ground in this case for something that's only 2 characters. Windy, wind, forecast, report, those could work with surf, maybe not wind and windy. I would move those into a separate localization. So that's a very brief way of looking at this particular keyword list. And I think it really shows many of the easy to make mistakes. And I say easy to make because there's 0 instructions on App Store Connect on what to do with this. You can dig through some things and you'll see that Apple says do not use the word app, but that's pretty much all there is to it. Knowing not to use spaces, not to use repetition, not even to put spaces around your commas in that case. Those are all things I had to learn and I had to reverse engineer. There's 0 out there, and they're kind of intuitive, especially the one where you put in the actual search term and repeat it and hope that this would mean the algorithm sees it more. Unfortunately, that is not the case. So hopefully this is helpful. You're in a very, not competitive, but a challenging field with surf tracking just because it isn't as popular as some of the easier to optimize for sort of keywords, but that's okay. All you have to do is really find all those 5s, maybe find some 6s, maybe find some 7s. And the way I would do that, let's go back to my computer, which I did remember this time, is if you go from here, there's definitely something interesting that Surfline is doing because it's making a ton of money. So I want to see what sort of keywords they are using. So let's take all of the apps that are getting some downloads or some ratings, and I want to compare them. I want to compare their organic keywords. And while that is loading, what this is going to do for us is going to find all the keywords that we have seen, Surfline, Dawn Patrol, and Water Sports Tracker, all rank in on the App Store. And this is the US. Yes, this is the US. And you can easily see where they rank over here. Who ranks? Obviously not these two. So maybe we'll look more at this, but they're also ranking in some decent number of keywords. So I think it might be fine to look at. And we can see that there are a bunch of 5s. Let's try to sort by this and see if there's anything interesting that's going on here, because that's really what would interest me. And you see Surf Report, Surf App, Surfline, Beach Tides. So they are ranked in a bunch of keywords. And look at this. Most of them are 5s. And that's actually okay, because it means that this particular niche is just not as popular on the App Store. A 5 doesn't mean that no one cares, like I said before. It means that very few people care. But very few, because we don't really know the real traffic in the App Store, is still a lot. And we know that there are many, many, many millions of keyword searches happening all the time. So that would be my way of doing this. Look at competitors, take their keywords, focus them in each localization, and make sure that you optimize your keyword list. Okay, let's see if we have any questions in the chat. And ooh, we have a lot of questions in the chat. Where do I even begin? Okay, I'll go back to where I stopped before. Let's see. Okay, here's an interesting one. Does the algorithm automatically remove special characters like a plus? I believe so. I think that if they're attached to a word, so if it's Premium Plus, for example, I don't think it will remove it. But if it's just something plus something and there's a space, I think it will just ignore it because it's too short and it can't really optimize for a plus. Leonardo is asking, will you get penalized if you... Which screen? Will you get penalized? I know how to talk, just not on Wednesdays. If you are ranked for a certain keyword but have a bad install conversion for it, even if you theoretically have the ratings count to rank for it. So yes and no, depends. On Google Play, yes, absolutely. Google Play really cares about the conversion rate. On the App Store, I don't think you will get penalized, but apps that have a better conversion rate will get a bit of a boost. So if you have a terrible conversion rate and none of your competitors have a better conversion rate, I think you'll be fine and no one is going to notice. But if one of your competitors is much better, they'll most likely get a much bigger boost. Now, they still need to have some ratings and some aspect of the keyword in their name the right way. So as long as they're competitive for the keyword, that is going to boost them. It's not going to bring them out of nowhere in most cases, unless the discrepancy is really, really big, meaning every other app in the category is doing a terrible job. They're getting terrible, terrible conversion. Everyone is looking at the app and going, nope, I don't want this. And then one app with amazing conversion can win. Normally, that's not the case. So for most cases, for most apps, for most keywords, you want to make sure you're as competitive as you can be. Okay. Lauren is saying, I can confirm Apple doesn't like free. I had a metadata rejection for that word in the title, and I've seen that. And they used to allow that, but that was many, many, many years ago, like 7 or 8, at least years ago. I don't even remember back that far. So after I think 2015, 16, maybe even 17, that really ended, and they really don't like it. Nathan is saying that we got the issue for an app called For iOS. Also true. If you remember back in the day when the iPad just came out and everything was HD, that also became a problematic term with the years. Apple really doesn't like anything that is not about the app. So it's for iOS because it's on the iOS App Store. You don't need to repeat it. It's free because you can see the price. There is no price on it, so it's free. If you try to state the obvious, Apple will be very, very upset. Theo is asking, how can someone decide if it's worth it to sacrifice characters for long-tail keywords? Do the individual words in long-tail keywords count as single words? Yes. Everything you have counts. The algorithm doesn't know what's a single keyword, what's a long-tail keyword, what's a multi-term keyword. Doesn't know, does not care. In theory, you're not really sacrificing? Oh, who is calling me? I forgot to put my computer in focus mode. Focus. So What you want to do is you want to make sure that you understand what the keywords that are in your space, what their popularity is. And it's possible that you will have 1 or 2 or 3 categories that of sets of keywords, I mean focuses, that are really, really popular. If you're doing anything for Instagram, Instagram is a 100 popularity. I think it dropped a little bit recently, but it's one of the most popular keywords on the App Store. If you're targeting that, that's one thing. But if you're targeting surf tracking, you see the difference. And so that is really what should guide your thinking on whether you should sacrifice keywords and use long tail or not. It really should be based on what's working and what's not working. And I would look at the competitors and what they're doing and try to understand their keyword list before I make that determination just off of looking at the store. All right, one more question and then we'll dive into more apps, and I'll try to go a little bit faster. Nathan is asking, do any of these rules apply to paid ASO keywords? No. ASO, or Apple Search Ads in this case, is you pay money and you usually get a view as long as the keywords that you put in your Apple Search Ads campaign are similar enough to keywords in your keyword list. Not in your name, not in your subtitle, maybe them a little bit, but Apple states very explicitly that the keywords in your keyword list have to be somewhat aligned with the keywords in your Apple Search Ads campaign. Now, I've seen many campaigns that have keywords that have nothing to do with keywords in the keyword list. As long as you pay enough, you will get some sort of an impression. For most apps, I think it is going to be the case where you want to be similar, especially if your campaign is very small or your bids are very, very low. So if your maximum is small or your bids maximum is low or your bids are low, it's going to be a determining factor. But for the most part, as long as you don't try to advertise for something that your app is totally not doing, you should be fine. And with that, let's go back to my computer and go to the next app. So what do we have next? We have Panorama Scroll Carousel Maker for Instagram. Haha. Okay, so photo collage for Instagram. Again, a lot of stuff happening here as well. Panorama, Scroll, Carousel, Maker, Photo, Collage, Instagram. Instagram is the biggest one. Let's take a look at Instagram just so you can see. Instagram has a popularity of 100. It must have come back up. I think it dipped to 96 at some point 2 weeks ago. And everyone is advertising on Instagram. Everyone wants to be a part of the Instagram. If you look at the top advertisers, this is something brand new. We actually just launched an hour ago. If you want to see who's advertising for Instagram, you will see that it's not just everyone. It's everyone and their mother and their aunt and their grandfather, because Lemonade is advertising on Instagram. Sirius, for whatever this is, Google, Temu, and those are only the top 6. We have a whole page full of them if we go into it here. I don't want to spend time on it, but if you're doing any sort of Apple Search Ad optimization, you have to use this. This is the right way to do it, and this is how you don't lose any money. Otherwise, you're going to burn your money in a fire, and we don't like to see that. I actually wrote a whole guide for how to not burn your money when you spend on Apple Search Ads. I'll link to it too because I think that's related. But continuing, so when it comes to Instagram, the algorithm is there's just so much going on that it will optimize, it will rank apps that have nothing to do with Instagram just because they're popular. So you're competing with all of this when you compete for anything Instagram. The more you niche it, the better it will be, because then you can get rid of the Snapchats and the TikToks and the Facebooks and the X's and the Threads, because there's very little chance that most apps can compete with these. So let's go back and let's see what is in the keyword list. So this is my keyword list, right? Double checking. No, this is not the right keyword list. Where's my keyword list? This is the keyword list. And let's bring this in here. Let's remove this. So we have notification reminders, Wunderlist, Planny Daily. Is this the right app? I may have copied and pasted the wrong app. Let's double check. Nope, this is the right app. If this is your app and I somehow copied and pasted incorrectly, please let me know because I think it's incorrect. I think it's flipped. No, it is this. Okay, there we go. Problem corrected. Now we can go back. So Caro, Scroll, Swipeable, Insta, Grid, Post, Template, Layout, story, picture, reel, photo, fit, swipe mix, pick, art. So obviously nothing is wrong here from a technical perspective. And if we hit optimize, it will remain the same. I think it's exactly, no, we somehow managed to clean one character. I don't know how that happened, but there's probably a space in here or something, or maybe a double comma. Unsure. But whatever it is, that is not an issue. So this is, from a technical perspective, a really good keyword list. But we run into the same issue that we saw before, and that is focus. There is so much going on here. I don't even know where to begin. I don't know what Caro is. I imagine it's a competing app. Don't waste your characters, your precious characters, on competing apps. Please don't do that. It really doesn't help in any way. There's very little chance that you will rank #1 for an app with a name that is not your app's name. Just, it's not going to happen. But even if you do, let's say by magic you do, the other app just does a terrible job at their App Store optimization, and they have not listened to a single thing I ever said in my life. Let's just say you're still not going to get the downloads, because if I'm looking for an app and I see your app's name, I'm not going to download it. And the biggest case for this was when Twitter renamed to X. Their downloads went down by a ton, and it's not because people hated the name. I'm sure there was also enough hate for the name, but really it was because people were searching for Twitter, seeing X as the top result, and saying, but what is X? I read about Twitter, I heard about Twitter, I saw it in a movie, I don't know what X is, and I'm not going to download it. And that's exactly what's happening to every app that's optimizing for a competitor name. So don't waste your precious characters. Let's see what else is going on here. Swipeable. I'm assuming all of these are competitors. I don't know the space as well, so if those are not, and that is something that people want, please let me know. But Insta for Instagram, that makes sense. And that's another problem. This is such an important keyword. I would actually bring it out and put it either in, I don't know if you're allowed to put it in the name based on what Instagram allows or not allows, but we'll search for that in a moment. And I would try to, if not, and I have to bury it here in the keyword list, move it all the way to the beginning. This is where you want to put it. This is the most important part of the keyword list. So even though the keyword list is less in terms of juju from the algorithm, what's on the left is going to have the most of the little that is still available. So you definitely want to optimize for that. Grid, post, template, layout, story, picture, reel, photos. Those are all interesting. I think those all make sense. And again, I would try to extract some of those, and I would take some of these into Inspector, analyze them, and see which I can bring into the name. But then something like fit could easily be confused for fitness. I don't think you would want to put that at the end of your keyword list. Swipe mix, another competitor. Pick, art. I think all of these are not really doing any justice, because they're not getting you to a point where they're combining into keywords that would be popular enough or not competitive enough that you can compete in them. So what's happening here is there's just a lot of stuff going on. I would easily remove all of these. I would easily remove all of this. And I will dig in a little bit deeper into what's left. And the reason why I would try to narrow it down even more is because if you think about focus, the algorithm has 100% of love, let's say, that it can give your keywords. When you have more keywords, each one gets less of that love by percentage. And when you have fewer keywords, or fewer words in this case, they will get each more. Now, it's mostly negligible in the keyword list, so I wouldn't say shorten the keyword list just to focus on one word or two words. I've tried that before, and it had some success in some keywords. It doesn't have the mass appeal that I would love for it to have. But if you don't need to put something in the keyword list, you are not confusing the algorithm, and not confusing the algorithm is good. So use only what you need. That's what I would do for Insta. And let's just see what happens when I look for Carousel Maker. I don't know if that's something that people are looking for. No, not really. 5. It's not even popular within Appfigures users because we haven't seen it in a month. So we're updating it now. And that's always a telltale sign that it's probably not a keyword you want to waste your name on. This is wasteful. And again, I don't mean to be mean, but this is if you don't look at the data and you're putting the keywords that are not going to get you the most here, that's going to be a problem. Now, I see 9 ratings here, and I assume that's 9 ratings overall, which means probably not in the last 30 days. So this could be a tactic to just get into something. Carousel Maker could really be anything as long as we get some traffic, and with some traffic we'll get more ratings, and more ratings will allow us to get into more downloads, and that's very possible. But in the world of Instagram, what I would do, because it's so competitive and because it's so compelling and because there's so much that people are interested in, I would look for the keywords that have the most opportunity, and that is keywords where the top results don't use the keyword in the name, even if it's a 5, even if it's a keyword that is maybe a little bit more popular. But let's see if that's the case here. So maybe that's the case, but really, I say 15 keywords here. The App Store is wrong. Is this the same app? Yeah, this is the same app. Why does it say 9? Huh, unsure. Oh, wait. There we go. No, that didn't change anything. So I'm not entirely sure why the App Store is wrong here, but there are ratings and they are translating into something. So if we are going for a keyword popularity of 5 to be number 1, or a keyword popularity of 5 in general in the app's name, I would move it all the way up and then find all of the keywords that can merge from the keyword list. In this case, Insta Carousel Maker or Grid Carousel Maker. I don't know if those are really important. Well, let's take a look. There's an easy way to know. And that's what I would make sure the keyword list definitely has, so the words can compound. Okay, a fairly similar keyword, a fairly similar list of competitors. Yeah, but it's also a 5, so not really all that exciting. But okay, so that's what I would do. But from a technical standpoint, this is pretty good. I would just focus it a lot more. Let's see what we have. What more questions do we have? What more questions do we have? That's definitely grammatically correct. Oh, wow. Time is flying. I wanted to do 8 apps. I barely did 2. Oh, that's what it was. Thank you, Nathan. The country was incorrect. A tip for everyone: when you submit an app, you should submit it in the English or US, your US link. That would work. And a few others have also said it. Okay, so I'm going to try to do 2 more apps in as fast as I can because I want to get more people to see what's happening here. So we have tasks timeline, daily organizer by day planner. Not too terrible. There is a lot going on, but not enough for me to be confused. Oh yeah, also not in the US. Okay, fair enough. We're not going to look at the ratings because we know what they are. Let me find this in my list. Where's this in my list? Oh, there we go. Okay. I had the sequence incorrect. So this is the keyword list from before. Notification reminders, Wunderlist, Planny Daily, Planner. This is one long thing with multiple spaces. Time block, reminders widget, goal day, smart tasks. So similar sorts of issues. Let's optimize this. We saved 12 characters easily just by reducing repetition and spaces. And again, I would say don't really spend the characters on targeting your competitors. Even if you rank for them, you're likely not getting the download. Now, there is a small chance in a competitive field like a to-do list that people don't really know what they're looking for, and eye candy is going to steal them. I don't think that's going to be the case in most of the searches, so there is a chance, and maybe if you've experimented with this, you know that this works. If you have, please let me know. I would love to know. But in most cases that I've seen, it never works. So I would say don't do it. Let's see if we can do one more, because that's really the most I would say here. Let's take SpendAtlas, travel budget app. It's kind of like we have a travel app on every live stream. So we have words that have to do with travel. Travel, spending, tracker, expenses, budget, nomad, solo, expat, spent, expense tracker. So one little issue, and that is that this expense tracker is ruining some stuff. But let's see if it's in the name, because if it's in the name, it's really bad. Yep, expenses in the name. So this I would remove instantly from the keyword list, leave it in the name. There's not much to clean up in the keyword list. We'll save a few characters. Oh, how do we save 17? Spending, tracker, expense. Oh, because expenses and expenses. Okay, even I didn't notice this. That's why we need tools. So you can optimize this. There isn't too much going on, but I would use Nomad and Solo and Expat maybe as a separate type of, in a separate localization, because they feel like a different focus to me. Now, an easy way to say, should I include something in my keyword list, is if any of these words merge with any of the words in the name. So let's say Nomad, and we go back into SpendAtlas. So travel nomad, is that a keyword that anyone would look for? We can look in Inspector, but even in my head, I would say probably not. Nomad budget, nomad expense tracker. That is what I would do. Also, duplication here. So that is how I would look at it. And if that word does align, so if nomad expense tracker, I'm very curious now, so I have to try it out. Nomad expense tracker. If that is anything above a 5, you should definitely keep nomad in the keyword list. If it is not above a 5, I really, really wouldn't. I would move that to a separate localization and try to build a whole set around that. Nope, it's a 5, just as I expected. And I broke our new thing, apparently, which you can't see, hidden by my face. I'll hide it again behind my face. So this is how I would choose keywords for the keyword list if they merge with an important keyword in the name, which necessitates that you find the most important keywords, put them in the name first. Let's do one more, and then I'll take questions. Before I do that, I forgot to mention that if you like what I'm doing here, give this video a like, please. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We're so close to 5,000. I haven't looked at the number this morning. We were like 25 away last night. So if by the end of this, I'm at about 5,000, that would be amazing. So let's make that happen. I'm not going to look at the likes because I do want to focus on this, but I'm going to trust that you're giving the video a thumbs up on the bottom. So we optimize for the YouTube algorithm. It's all about optimization. Okay, so one more. Exist middle-aged community. Journaling, motivation, grief. I already see way too many focuses here, and this is something that I have looked at before. Gratitude journaling was a huge thing a few years ago, and I worked with a few apps that were focused on that. And so I noticed that all of these, the journaling, the motivation, and the grief, they're all really big on their own. Taking them and just slapping them into a subtitle means that they're not going to get enough of that good love from the algorithm you want, and it's going to be very difficult to rank for them. Let's see what's in the keyword list for this app, just so we can make sure that we're not doing anything else wrong. Well, cares, CBT, mood tracker, headspace, competitor, don't do that. Depression, anxiety, stress, therapist, happier, head. I think that's also a competitor. Sad, calm, panic. So this is just too much stuff. Like everything that I see here is too much. Take this, deconstruct it, and target each one of the 3 top things in their own, with their own localization. That's the only way that you would get any sort of real ranks from what I can see here in front of me. There is so much going on here. Stress and anxiety and depression are kind of similar, and they might be similar to grief, but they may not work with some of the other keywords you have in there. Calm is the name of a competitor, but let's say it's also in something that you could search for, so it'll be okay. Panic can work with anxiety, but at the same time, they don't all work together. And so take them and split them up. Now, here's a trick. So if you want to target, if, for example, journaling and motivation work together, I wouldn't put both of them in the subtitle. I would put the more important one in the subtitle and the less important one in the keyword list. What that means is that you have more focus from the algorithm on the really important keyword, which is going to be journalism, let's say in this case, and journaling, and motivation will be a supporting keyword coming from the keyword list. Then you can use a separate localization and do exactly the opposite. So you can target journaling and motivation across 2 localizations and get way more it'll be way more possible for your app to actually rank especially if the competition there is not incredibly high. But even if it is, you would still be able to do this. And if it is incredibly high, bring that into the name, and the same cascading effect will still work. The keyword list is really a trick, I would say, because it enhances everything you have in your name and in your subtitle, as long as you focus. Focus, focus, focus. I should have a whole thing on the screen for focus. I do have something on the screen for you. I keep getting asked all the time for a promo code, and I said the only way to get a promo code is to come to my live streams. So I'm going to put this on the screen. This is a 30% off on the tools that I use today, including the tools that will show you the Apple Search Ads competitors. We also have tools for Apple Search Ads keywords, and that's going to pay for this really instantly with the money you save, not burning it on Apple Search Ads. So I'm going to leave this here for a little bit as I take more questions, but take advantage of it because it's going to go away very, very soon, and then it's not going to come back until you see my face again. Okay, let's take a few questions and go from there. Let's see. What else? Oh, we have so many. So many questions. I don't even know where to begin. We'll go with this one. Oh, this is actually not a question. This is just an interesting comment. So Nathan is contributing. Thank you for joining this. That if your name is not well known, put the keyword first and the app name at the end. And that works really well. One of the apps here today did it in the subtitle, which I thought was interesting. I don't think I've seen that before, but definitely something you can experiment with, especially if you have a very long app name for whatever reason. So that's something that is super important. And we are running out of time, so I'll wrap everything up because this is, in my opinion, very important and should not be done super last minute like I know most people do. One, there are some technical things you can do to improve your keyword list, and that will save you time and give more focus to your keywords, which will help with downloads. Two, don't repeat keywords in the keyword list from the name and the subtitle, because that will ruin your downloads. That's probably the biggest takeaway. If you take away one thing, let it be this. Do not repeat keywords from your name or subtitle in the keyword list. That will ruin everything. And I know that's a tip some people gave like 5-6 years ago, so don't follow that. It's terrible. The other thing is make sure you're focused. You have to focus on one thing. I know you want to tell the algorithm everything, and it's the same when you construct your onboarding. You want to tell your user everything they can do with the app. I know I was guilty of that in some onboardings in the past as well, but it doesn't really do what you want for it to do. It only confuses the algorithm or the person. So make sure you're focused. You have multiple chances to impress the algorithm using localizations in the US for the App Store. And I have a guide on how to do that, which I will link to as well in the description for later. And you can see what I mean when I say use multiple localizations for different focuses. Please use that. That's really super simple. If you're not sure what to do with your keyword list, drop it in the tool that I showed you before. There's a link to it from your menu that you can see. Let me show you where it is. Actually, I'm using a different menu. I'm using something new that you're going to see next week. So preview of next week. It's here under Optimize, under Tools, and you have the App Keyword List Optimizer, which is what I used before to take the keyword list and do the technical optimizations. It's free for everyone, so if you don't use it, you're just wasting time. And that's pretty much all I have for you today. We're on time, which is great. Hopefully this was useful. If this was useful and you do end up making changes and they help or hurt your ASO, please let me know. I love knowing what sort of changes you make and how they impact your downloads. You can email me. You can find me on X. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm very easy to be found. Or you can drop a comment on this video later on. I know in the last few live streams I've done screenshot optimizations, and many of the developers that I talked about in the live streams actually told me what they did and what they're changing, and in some cases if it worked or if it didn't, and that's amazing. I love seeing that, so please continue. And that's all I have for you today. If you have any questions other than this, drop them in the comments and I will get back to them. Otherwise, I'll see you in a couple of weeks for another live stream, and make sure you subscribe to the newsletter to see that we Actually, we just hit 5,000 subscribers. Hooray! We did it. So join me again in a couple of weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the newsletter to see what I'm going to be talking about and when. It's going to be a Thursday. It's going to be a Wednesday. And I will see you in the future. That's it. Enjoy the rest of your day.